Hello! In this video, we will be covering one of the primary data types in Python, and that is strings. Strings are nothing but a representation of, let's say, a single letter, a series of letters that make up a word, or a group of words that forms a sentence. Uh, Strings would usually be represented within a single quote, a double quote, or sometimes a triple single quote, which I would be explaining later in this video. Now, in this video, we will be covering what are the most common methods that are used in string data types. Also, how we can format some particular statements using tabs or new line. We're also highlighting some of the syntax things that we should stick to when we are, declaring a variable using strings. Now, other things that may not be falling into Sprint categories, the comments or doc strings that we would be using in order to, uh, inform our peer developers, how what is the code is about or what is the purpose of that particular code that we are writing. And also, we'll use print statements to refer those variables and print a particular value. Now, let's say I have a variable called channel name, and in the channel name I'll be referencing our channel. Now in this channel name, let's say I make up a print statement and use that print statement using formatted strings. As you can see here, I'll say I welcome to, and then if I execute that particular cell, you can see that a variable is sort of substituted with the string data type. Now, how I can confirm that is if I specify the type and then check for the channel name variable, it's gonna result in string data type. So these are the methods these are the ways in which you would basically reference the string data type. Now, within the string data type, what we can also do is, let's say I have a message, and in that message, I want to use double quotes or single quotes, right? Now, Python, what it does is like, because it executes in such a way, like, let's say I would like to say it's a beautiful sunny day. Now, as you can see here, um, anything that is treated as a string is sort of represented in a different color, and anything that is not within that particular string block is sort of, substituted with a normal coloring code. So when Python interpreter executes this particular statement, uh, it sort of thinks that the statement gets completed here. So if I try to execute it, it's going to throw me an error called syntax error, citing that there is an issue with this particular statement. Now, the way in which we can, address these particular thing is, for example, if I reference it with a backslash, and immediately the color of this particular um, variable reference, the assignment value got changed. It's like escaping that particular single code. Now, if I execute it, obviously I'll be able to reference that message if I want to type it. Now I could also do in another way, like let's say I want to use double quotes within that particular statement. Then in that case, I don't need to reference. It's perfectly allowed within Python programming standard to use proper double quotes or the single quotes in that particular fashion. Now, I can also do, let's say I want to reference or emphasize something within that particular statement using a double quotes. Then I would simply say, let's say I want to say it's beautiful sunny day, and I want to highlight the word sunny. Then I would also be able to reference the double quotes within this particular statement. And as you can see, even that sort of vice versa representation or reference is sort of possible. These are the multiple ways. Now I could also use what I call that as a doc string. So I could use it with three double quotes, and as you can see here, I can also say it's a nice, wonderful day. With this doc string, because we are using triple single quotes, it does not matter whether we use double quotes or single quotes within that, and that's why you see the statement still remains with the appropriate coloring. And then if I try to print it, you can see obviously I need to use a print statement here. If I try to print it, then you can see that it's sort of coming properly. If I use double quotes within this, then it will be still be printing fine. You can see here. These are the multiple ways in which we can reference a particular string to a variable. Now, methods wise, we'll go most common methods. Let's say I have two strings. I have a string called A and I have a string called B. I can simply concatenate those two string references simply like this. You have to reference it within the quotes to identify that as a string. Or in other words, I can also do something like, let's say I have a method called str, and if I say 12 also inside that particular reference, it would still treat that number also as a string. That's the beauty of string methods. Now, there is also another method called multiply. So, for example, it is most commonly used in areas where we wanna, increase the number of letters by a certain number of value. So, for example, if I say star a multiplied by 5 would give me a getting printed 5 with 5 letters of a would be printed here. So that's one of the things. And now if I say, for example, I want to use the length function to identify how many how many letters are there in this particular uh, string reference, then I can simply use this to print the total number of letters within that particular. It would include spaces as well. So if I take out spaces, for example, it's gonna consider that as well. So that's the usage of length method. Um, Now we may have scenarios or situations where we want to capitalize every letter at the beginning of a word. For example, I have a word called message, and that message is gonna have like you are beautiful. Now when I do that, obviously if I try to print the message, it's gonna print it as it is. Now what I can do is I can use a function called title, and when I do that, it's gonna convert the beginning of every string into an uppercase letter, as you can see here, right? So that is one of the most common methods. Sometimes if you want to convert that every single word followed by a space to be, and as an uppercase. Now you also have likewise lowercase. For example, if I replace this, uh, okay, let me first do the uppercase and then I'll show you the lowercase. So if I want to convert this into an uppercase, I can simply use the upper method here, and then it converts that everything into uppercase. And I have an uppercase reference here, and I want to convert that into a lowercase, and I can simply use that to also convert things into a lowercase. Um, I also have a capitalize function or a method. Now, if I use that particular thing, only the first letter, as you can see here, in the beginning of a sentence would get capitalized. So these are some of the common methods. Now, you can also check whether or not it is fully lowercase by using this method. So if you check that, it's going to print like it's false, or you can check whether it is upper fully. Now that is also, oh, I have to reference it in smaller case. So uh, it's upper, so it's going to return it false because not all are completely upper. So if I replace this with say R alone, then it returns that particular uppercase as true. And likewise, it also checks whether it is title, which is false here because it's not really a title. Title should be something like this. And as soon as it change it, it is sort of become title. Now, these are the most common conversion methods that we do, especially when we are using in statements like if loop or for loops, and where we want to convert that into a lowercase to do case insensitive comparisons and things like that. Now, one other thing is, for example, you have a space and you want to strip that particular space. So you, for example, let's say hello world is a message that I would like to assign. And as you can see here, I've given a bit of space here. I can simply use strip keyword that sort of removes the space at the beginning and at the end of that particular statement. So if I print it, it sort of remove that particular statement. Now, if I use rstrip, just to tell you guys that there may be a sort of, you might be wondering, oh, it doesn't look like that it removed this, the space there. So if you use right strip alone here, then you see that the hello got slightly moved. So now in order to emphasize it a bit more, so you can see here that it still works. Whereas if I use strip method, the hello will got shifted there. And likewise, if I use left strip method, it only strips the space on the left hand side. So these are the different strip methods that we have. We also have a split method, and right now I'll go to the split method, but before going there, I'll also show you guys something else. So now I represented the spaces using tabs, and now if I use backslash t, uh, it's still, if the strip method, it still works fine. But if I take that strip method and then print it, you can see that that many spaces got introduced. Now I can also use something called as backslash n. Now backslash n would print that in a new line. What really? If I just use that statement, as you can see, it just sort of prints that particular message in a new line as soon as it references the backslash n um, character there. Now let's go back to the split statement. So imagine that I have a message that says um, 1 comma 2 comma 3, and I want to split that message using the split keyword. Let's say I have that split, and then I want to reference that, split it using the comma separated values. So if I, as soon as I do that, it's going to convert that into a list of items, and in that list, we will be having all those individual separations. Now, I can also give something like hello there, and each of them would get converted as well. Now, why I'm saying that as a list is you can simply validate the type of that conversion as well. So I need to add one more. You can see that it is a sort of a list data type. Now, list data type is something that we'll cover in a separate video, but these are some of the things that we have got. Now, in the split, I could also do in such a way like specify the max split. So what I imply by that is like if I specify a max split is equal to, let's say, 1, then what happens is only that hello statement got splitted, and then whatever comes after that is sort of retained and made it as a, it made it as a single sort of a statement there. So you can also use a max split as a parameter when when you call that method, and then specify whether you want to limit it only to one separation as such. Now, we discussed on single quotes, double quotes, comments, and docstring. So comment, how will you be representing a comment is, so let's say I have a print statement, and then print statement, I print hi, and then I have another print statement where I say I print world, and then I have another print statement that says exclamatory. So if I print this right now, you can see here it prints everything one by one. Now if I want to comment this particular step, I'll simply specify the hash symbol here, and as you can see, it simply skipped this particular statement. Now there is also another way called docstrings, which would be, it's not exactly like a comment, but it is most commonly used if in case there's a series of statements that you want to hide it in bulk. So if you go here and then if you just specify that, basically none of that, in this scenario, it is sort of displaying that as a docstring because I have that as a docstring. Now let's say if I print something else, I obviously that part is sort of skipped. Um, that's the beauty of docstrings. In where you want to reference a multiple comment, it need not be this. It can basically be like the following uh, statement is going to print a welcome message. It is a string data type. If I do this, then obviously it's going to give some meaningful insight to the developer, explaining on what the below code is trying to do, most commonly used in functions as well, where we will be defining what is the purpose of that function so that, let's say I have a print and then I want to understand what it does, and I'll just press Shift Tab as you can see here, and that's gonna give me with all that particular values. Now with the print statement, as you can see here, there's also a parameter called as end equal to n. Now if I give that value, what happens is, let's say usually print statements prints everything in new line. So I'm gonna purposely give a space here. So print, and then I will say world, or I will say hello world. Okay. Now with this one, if I print, it prints on the new line. Now instead, if I add that n parameter here, and instead of this one, if I just replace it simply with that, you see here, right? That new line got substituted with, nothing basically, and therefore it both got executed on the and sort of printed results on the same line, and that's why you see it's sort of similar to what concatenation would do. These are some of the things, and of course, as I told you guys before, you would be also able to do that sort of operations within that brace as well. For example, let's say I have a variable called as um, today, and that's gonna be like something. Let's say like the day for today is Sunday, and then I have a variable called tomorrow, and that's gonna be like Monday. Now what I can do is I can simply reference that here in this format as well. And sorry, today. Also, I can say tomorrow. As you can see here, it sort of references both those variables within this. In addition to this, it would also allow me this as well. Sunday, Monday got appended together. So I would be also able to, do that concatenation of strings here. Now, one thing to notice specifically is like if you're trying to concatenate, let's say hi, and then I have, let's say tomorrow, it sort of concatenates. But if I say 12 and then try to do that particular concatenation, it's going to throw me in a type error saying that it's basically not a string data type. So now to mask it, I did explain you guys before, so you can just do that string conversion here, and then it's gonna be treating that as a particular as a string, and then it sort of concatenates it and prints it here. So this is pretty much about string data type in Python, and I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel would be great, and if you like it, please do share with your friends and family. Thank you.